Are you thinking of remodeling your Airstream or your RV? Don't do a thing. Don't touch it until you watch this episode of Designed by Wingnut Social. Hey kids, and welcome to Designed by Wingnut Social. I'm your host, Darla Jethro Powell. I still have like 1% of schmutz left, but I am on the mend. Apologies for any background noise you guys might hear, as we are still under construction at the Wingnut Manse. So it is what it is. The show must go on. And today, guys, we are talking about a super, super cool niche. And that is renovations, custom designs of pre-owned, sometimes new, but mostly pre-owned Airstreams, RVs, trailers. What a cool market. And today's guest, Nate Stover of Innovative Spaces, is the guy. I mean, you just Google RV restoration, RV and custom interior design in Innovative Spaces, and he just pops up for his company. He's based out of California, and he has a really, really interesting take on this business and the niche of the business and some of the precautions and things you're going to want to know if you're even considering, hey, maybe you have your own trailer or Airstream that you're thinking of remodeling. There's some stuff here that you need to hear. Or if you have clients who are thinking, hey, Susan McNuggets, yeah, I know you did such a great job with my kitchen. Can you take a look at my Airstream? I'd like to remodel that. So if you don't know what you don't know, you're going to find out in this episode. So stick around. And before I get into my conversation with Nate Stover, though, I want to remind you that Wingnut Academy is live and running, our course Instagram for interior designers. Totally on demand, totally robust course to walk you through on creating a complete, curated individual strategy for your interior design firm so you can market yourself on Instagram and find clients. It's so important to market yourself as an interior designer on Instagram. It is low-hanging, super low-hanging fruit, the most effective form of advertising, more than paid Google ads. Paid social ads can work with Instagram as well, but more than paid Google ads, more than anything that I've seen in my 5 years, right, so far of being in the interior design industry. Is it 5? It's maybe pushing 6. Instagram, social media marketing is a no-brainer. So if you want to get in there and learn how to do that on your own, maybe you want to delegate that to someone in your own firm, head on over to wingnutsocial.com and check out Wingnut Academy, Instagram for Interior Designers course. We're getting tremendous feedback. Clients, students who have already signed up for this course have already gotten traction from taking the course and implementing the course materials within it on their Instagram. And that is no joke. You can go over and see some of the reviews on the Instagram for Interior Designers course at wingnutsocial.com. All right, before I get into my convo with Nate, you know the drill. Nate Stover is the founder, owner, and head builder and designer, a lot of hats, Nate, at Innovative Spaces. Nate became involved in the trades from building furniture to building entire homes early on. And then he discovered, hey, I like working with trailers. You'll hear more in this episode. And the trailers he works on gives him the opportunity to not only use his previous building skills, but also to exercise his creativity to produce something truly unique and functional. Every project that leaves the Innovative Spaces yard represents their ingenuity and years of craftsmanship. Wingnuts, help me in welcoming Nate Stover to the show. Hey there, Nate Stover. Thanks for joining me on the show. How the hell are you?
I'm hella fine. Let's call it that. Happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
I love it. I already feel that you and I are kindred spirits. Just guys, make sure to stay tuned to the end there for the fire round questions, because Nate and I have a lot in common. All right, Nate. So Nate Stover, you have your business is Innovative Spaces, and I love your niche. And this is a first for us as a guest on the podcast. And your niche is what? Tell us.
Our niche is mostly Airstream trailers. So I like to think of us as kind of upcyclers. You know, we take something that's been around 50, 60, sometimes 70 years and rebuild it better than it was and make it modern and pass it along to last another 50, 60 years.
I love it. It's always been my dream to have an Airstream trailer, right? They're so super cool. But this is such a specific niche. So before we get into the actual business model and our conversation about around this niche and how you do it, how did you get started in this? This is like just so specific.
Well, like most things in my life, I kind of stumbled into it. I went through a divorce and went back to school and decided I was going to be a marine geochemist. So I did that for a while, but then I got my teenage kids full time and I just couldn't travel for that. So I used to be a general contractor before that midlife crisis. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I need to get some work quickly, right? So I fell back on my building experience and I knew a guy who was renovating an Airstream and had a little company doing it. I started working for him thinking it was just kind of a stopgap. What actually happened, though, is I really enjoyed it. What I liked about it is the challenges in it were much different than home construction, in that home construction, you design a home, you have, in a sense, more unlimited space. Oh, well, we need to put a bedroom here. We can design one here.
Right.
This was trying to fit everything into a defined space. You can't add to the space. This is what you get. How do I make this work? And how do I make it to a quality that kind of represents me? And so it turned out that I started having just a lot of battles with the guy who owned the company because his ideas and my ideas were different. I was kind of raised in the trades and you're only as good as what you put out. And he was more of like a business major who was looking at this as kind of like a little niche market that was just opening up. Right. So we couldn't quite ever see eye to eye. And eventually he wanted to move in another direction. So I bought him out and
nice.
Started Innovative Spaces.
So when you, just to back up a little bit, so getting involved with RVs and Airstreams in particular, was it just that you had a networking connection with someone who was already doing that and you just kind of fell into it? That's how I fell into the marketing space. I just fell into it.
Yeah, it really was. It was, I needed something quickly and temporarily, and I just kind of fell into it. I've always been a builder. I mean, I grew up doing it. It was just one of those things. I could always see things in my head. I never needed to learn how to read plans. First time I looked at it, it just made perfect sense, And so building has just always been a part of my life. From furniture to high-end custom homes. When I was a contractor, I was up in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley area and building, 20,000 square foot single family homes. So I always tried to be on the high end of things. And so getting into trailers, I wanted to bring that into trailers because so much of what you see in trailers is you walk into them and they look like an 80s home, Yeah. They're very not nice retro, but retro,
Even still.
Yes, even still a lot of them. So yeah. I really wanted to change that. And a lot of the stuff you'll see on our site isn't my personal taste, but that's kind of what I do. Is I don't want it to represent what my personal taste is. I wanted to make sure that all of our projects represent the client and what their personal taste is.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about the business model. So as an interior designer, our business models are usually broken up. Like we get the inquiry, maybe it's via email or a phone call. We have a quick little screening phone call. Then we go out to the site, right? And do a consultation and discuss the scope of work and a proposal. Is that the same beginning steps for your sales process or your working process with doing Airstreams, or did you have to change that up?
Well, it's a little bit different. In the beginning, we were fed kind of work from the guy that I was originally working with, because even though he stopped, he had put a lot into marketing, and so he was still getting calls in. But as we started putting our projects out there using Instagram and everything else, we mostly have people call us who just like our work. and a lot of them don't have a trailer. They don't even know what they want. They just know that they like our product. So our calls really start by just getting to know the client. So here's a typical call. Someone will call up and go, "Hey, Nate, I love your project. We really want to get an Airstream. We have no idea what we need, but we just know we want you to build it for us." And the conversation then goes into me getting to know them. I need to know how they envision using it, what they are, what their vacationing style is. Is it someone who likes to go from campground to campground? More and more, it's people who want to be off grid. They want to be in BLM land. They want to be away from people more. So I can start finding out what they need in the trailer and then get to the point where we can even say, all right, well, we're going to be looking for this type of unit for you. We need something in this length or this or that. And as I get to know them, I get an idea of their aesthetic taste. We usually start like a Pinterest board where I tell them, throw in anything you like architecturally. It doesn't matter if it's in a trailer or not. I just want to get to know your style.
Sure.
Then, once we get into that, we start working through it. We find them a unit. Then we go into blocking out the design, getting the general layout, making sure that the flow of the trailer works for them, and finally getting down to where we've created a full 3D drawings of what their trailer is going to look like.
Our clients, I'm sorry to interrupt, but are clients coming to you with pre-owned Airstreams? Are we renovating pre-owned, or are we going from brand new?
Oh, no, they're almost all pre-owned.
Okay, that makes sense.
We have, from the 50s, some of them as old as from the 40s, all the way up to probably 2018 is like the newest one we've renovated. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes we get people who buy brand new Airstreams and they don't want to renovate the whole thing, but they want to change some of the things in it. They're like, "Oh, we hate the way this is. Can you change out the front for us, or the bathroom or kitchen or something like that?"
How are you, as a designer and a general contractor, elevating the functionality and the lifestyle qualities of Airstreams or of trailers? Because these aren't inexpensive ones. These seem like they're a higher end brands that you're working with that are already pretty well thought out. So tell us about some of how you're impacting people who are into this RV lifestyle and making that a better experience for them.
So, like anything custom, if it's designed for your needs, it's going to be better suited towards your usage. So most of the Airstreams, they find popular models that work for a lot of people and they produce them in mass. What we get is everything is designed specifically for a client. So like Airstream recently started doing kind of more of like a model that has like a little office in it and stuff like that. But that's
smart.
But it's taken them a long time to get there. We've been producing stuff like that for the last 10 years. So we're able to transition to an immediate change, whereas Airstream does it over time when they determine that there's enough demand for this. Now we're going to design and build this model. But the other side of it is we're not quite limited in building techniques like Airstream. Airstream belongs to the RVIA. RVIA says everything in here any panel should have a fire resistant for this amount of time or this amount of time. And,
I see.
They're very stringent on what materials you use. And a lot of those materials are heavy and off-gassing. They're kind of that plastic looking paneling and stuff like that. And a lot of people just aren't comfortable in that. They want to have materials that feel like your home. And so we've chosen not to go the RVIA route, but all our trailers are very safe because we take a lot more time with our electrical systems and making sure everything's gauged and saved and redundancies to make sure that, that the safety's there. We use much more upgraded materials than, say, Airstream does. And a lot of them, that starts all the way at the foundation. A lot of our projects, we literally tear apart the whole trailer before we start rebuilding it up from the ground.
Wow.
Oftentimes even a new aluminum chassis instead of the old steel chassis that rust out. We use stuff from the marine world, such as like Cosa board subfloor.
Right.
It's a fiberglass composite, never rot. Bugs don't eat it. So there's a lot of ways that we can start lightening up builds and making them feel like a home that feels more sturdy. Most Airstreams you go into, you hit their panels and they're flimsy old. The older ones are all very flimsy paneling and everything. You come into ours and they feel solid. And everything's custom built to within the trailer, whereas Airstream, even now, they basically have pre-manufactured all these units that they go in and they attach to the wall, and they just design it so it looks like everything fits in there, but it's not like completely integrated into the structure. You just can't in production that way. So we just get a little bit higher quality. And you pay for it, but you get that really integrated. This was intentionally built. This is designed. This is going to last. Just a different feel, really.
So as interior designers, which comprises the majority of my audience, we're used to designing and building for clients and having some kind of governing person to answer to, whether that's code enforcement or architects or those kinds of standards. Who is it that you have to answer to in this space? Is that something that's also just as strictly governed?
No, in fact, it's an area that I'm trying to work with entities to govern. Because it really isn't. Right now, any trailer to be on the road has to get pulled into the DMV. They check that your lights work. You have a breakaway switch. And they're like, you're good to go. And that is one of the problems that I'm seeing in the industry is because there's not much regulation, a lot of people are coming in to try to, this is a great way. I can start doing this and I don't have to I can just open up a business and do it.
Right.
And that is a real concern. I've seen trailers that are rolling nightmares. A lot of people don't understand the integration of 110 and 12 volt systems, and everybody thinks of 12 volt as being very benign because you can grab both terminals of a battery and be fine. Yeah. Well, you can hook leads to those terminals and weld with them so they can create a lot of heat. Yeah. And so a lot of, and I tell people when they call me, because not everybody's in our budget range. And we get that, but we want to try to help everybody along in the journey. And so I tell them things to be careful of. I know some builders who don't do the high-end finishes that we do, but they are really good at the electrical system. So they're going to create a safe trailer.
Yeah, and that's super important. So what would you say, Nate? I mean, I know you're based in California, but we have an audience all over the world. What would you say to the designer who's like, man, what a terrific niche. I would love to get started in this myself. So I imagine, if I was going to get into this as an interior designer, interior decorator, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that seems like there's a lot of safety things, a lot of liability, a lot of things that could go wrong. Mm-hmm. Where does one even begin to get their feet wet in this kind of industry? Because I'm sure you've seen, this is a little bit of a long question, like the YouTube channels that have people just randomly designing and putting in stuff in these trailers that might be too heavy or seem unsafe. I've seen them and just kind of like, it hits me intrinsically, like that doesn't look too safe. Like it's pretty, but I can see a lot maybe going wrong with this. So where do you even begin?
So, I would try to work with people who have been in the industry. There's a lot of times that we work with designers to help design trailers. We do a lot of trailers for stars and the rich and famous and stuff. Mm-hmm. And
makes sense.
All of them have their own designer that they're married to, right? And we have no problem working with them. And what usually works well is we have a few meetings where we kind of work through the general layout. We have to talk about weights and balances. We help them get the layout, and we love it actually when we work with designers because they're great on the fit and finishes. They're going to come up with stuff that we maybe wouldn't have thought of. which is nice because, you know, we're so busy, we get kind of stuck in our traditional realms and everything and what we represent to the client. And when we get to work with other designers, it's great for us because we just get that extra input. And, you know, we're able to kind of help guide them along going, yeah, that finish works. That one doesn't. It's too heavy or this, you know. And so I would recommend if they're doing it, call someone like us who has done it. You know, we can definitely, you know, there's times where we've come in as just a consultant on stuff to say, oh, yeah, this looks solid. Hey, if you were going to do this, I would shift this here or this here because your weight is too heavy towards the tail. You need to distribute this weight on the trailer if this thing's going to be safe on the road. So there's a lot of stuff to take into consideration on it when you're doing that. So, I mean, a lot of my background is kind of engineering through the sciences and stuff. And so for me, that's been helpful in understanding some parts of this that are important.
Also, I'd like to say my weight is also too heavy near the tail, thanks to COVID. So is this something that you would consult with interior designers only in California? Can you do this remotely?
No. Yeah, we do it remotely all the time. In fact, probably over half of our builds are outside of California.
Really? Okay, cool.
I mean, we ship them to the East Coast. We have one we're doing for New Zealand. We've sent one as far as Japan, you know, so we've done them internationally as well as throughout the U.S.
I love that. And that definitely, if you have a client that wants to do something like that and it's above your pay grade or you're a little nervous about taking that on, that's a great collaboration idea. I love that.
You know, and a lot of, we do a lot of projects where people are using these basically as guest cottages and ADUs. You know, obviously have to check with, you know, your local ordinances to see what you can get away with. But it's great, especially for additions to places. People are thinking about building an ADU. We have people do this because they don't want the disruption of having building going on right next to their house for the next year. You know, this can be built completely off-site, get installed. Hey, we're good to go, you know? So
yeah, I love that. Right. I know. And as we're speaking right now, I have construction going on in my house and my neighbors probably aren't too happy. So if you guys hear any hammering and stuff, that's not me. Those are, we're redoing our kitchen. So, okay. So let's talk about the very, very, laser focused niche. Right. A lot of interior designers, architects are kind of nervous about getting into something that's so niche. They might be like, well, I want a niche to do playrooms, or I want a niche to doing RVs, or a niche to just doing nurseries, but they're terrified of leaving money on the table, like not doing houses. You know, maybe they would think, okay, I'll do houses and RVs or trailers or something like that. But everyone that I've spoken to that is the most successful seems to have a really laser focused niche like this. How are you finding that? Have you been tempted to branch out, or how's that working out?
Well, I always keep my options open.
Sure.
I mean, this is just what we've done, that we've gotten the reputation for. And it's going to always be kind of our first love and our main focus. But I mean, anytime you're in any business, you want to be flexible. You want to be able to see what's coming up. And if you find something that you find has a high demand, some sort of niche, go for it. I mean, and if you can get the publicity on it and get it out there, yeah, you may end up focusing solely on that. But I mean, I wouldn't drop all your eggs in one basket and go, okay, I'm just going to do closets, or I'm just going to do this or whatever, you know, but start trying to get in those little jobs if that's something that interests you. Whatever you do, you got to like it, right? So, you know, if there's a niche that's hot and you can't stand it, you're not going to succeed at it. So stay away from it, you know. But
I had a client, and I thought this was amazing. And actually, I'm thinking about it. I need to check in with her, who was decided to focus her design services to game rooms, you know, for video gamers or bachelor, or, you know, people that have, you can see my background. That kind of appealed to me. I'm a huge nerd. I have like Star Wars and Marvel and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. So I need to check in with her and see how she's doing on that. Okay. So you have a very specific niche. Very high-end clients, it sounds like, out in California. I'm not surprised. How are you marketing to these clients, or do you even need to at this point?
Well, I mean, you always want to stay relevant, but we do really cheap SEO just through GoDaddy. I mean, I once tried hiring an SEO company and I fired them within 3 months. I was just like, it was such a ripoff, and
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there. Yeah,
they are, and I think the key is always doing good work, posting what you do, getting referrals from clients. I mean, we get a lot of referrals, especially like in the celebrity market. You do a job for one celebrity, they talk to another celebrity, and that starts bringing in that business.
Yeah.
So the other area that I've always tried to do is embrace the community as a whole. So the Airstream community is a small community. Anybody who is into Airstreams, if you ask them if they know who we are, probably does. So I always take time to talk to the DIYers out there and give free advice. And, I'm also in the process of creating kind of a educational program for the DIYers. And a lot of that is I really want to see safe trailers out on the road. I think it's a responsibility in the industry. So, just getting out there and being seen and not being afraid to donate some of your time or answer somebody's questions or help guide somebody who isn't a potential client, being open to all of them is great for marketing and just building your reputation, as a good guy, as a good business, but yeah, I mean, any publicity you can get is usually good publicity as long as it's not in the building, as long as it's not because this job went horribly,
This Airstream went over a cliff.
Yes. That's usually operator error.
That's a terrific strategy anyway, right? For content marketing. And it's like, I don't know if you're familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk. We've mentioned him here before, but his jab, right hook, jab, right hook is you're giving information, you're becoming a thought leader in the space. And eventually those DIYers graduate to being the DI hire, and it just builds your authority in in the
Yeah. I mean, and the one thing I think I would like to mention too is if you're a designer and you want to run doing an Airstream renovation, first time through, hire a reputable company. Don't use your general contractor. A lot of general contractors, and I've had this happen with people, they go like, oh, I'm going to have my general contractor do it, and they come in at a lower price because a general contractor doesn't know what goes into these trailers. And every single time I've had a designer do that, they go, God, I wish we had gone with you. We ended up spending more money than the bid that you gave, and the product isn't as great. These are not easy builds. They are very complex. A Airstream renovation can easily take over 2,000 hours. There's every system you can imagine that's built on board. In fact, many of the systems are much more complicated than a house. In a house, you're hooking up to city sewer and utilities. Here, everything is carried on board. You have to understand, basically, if you're going to hire someone, if it's Shipwright that you're hiring who builds boats, great. They can probably do an Airstream, but it's a different system. So go with someone who has done it. It's worthwhile. Yeah. You'll have a happier client at the end of it. It'll be big. It'll be helpful.
We like to say only cry once, right? The people that came back to you cried twice.
Yes.
All right, Nate Stover, thank you so much for your insight on this amazing niche. I want an Airstream. Hook me up with an Airstream.
You got it.
Now I have to ask you, I know that you're so excited about this. Are you ready for the What Up Wingnut round?
Fine. All right.
What would the hashtag on your tombstone be?
I'm retired. Hashtag retired.
I love it. You're stuck on a deserted island, but you can have your one favorite thing, food for life. What is it?
A big bottle of vodka.
I see. I love it. A man after my own heart. And last but not least, please recommend a book that's impacted you either personally or professionally.
Dr. Seuss. Any one of them.
Any of the work.
You can't take life too seriously. That's the impact.
Green eggs and ham, I think, is my favorite.
Yeah. You know what? I got kids, I'm a dad first and foremost, and just don't take life so seriously. Have fun, and
I love it. Nate Stover, please tell the audience where they can go to find out more about you and Innovative Spaces, and we will call it a day.
Sounds good. If you just type in Innovative Spaces and Airstreams, you'll find us, no problem. You can go directly to our website by typing in innovsb.com, but much easier to just remember Innovative Spaces.
Sounds like you got some good SEO somewhere.
Yeah. It was all organic when we first started because there wasn't a lot of competition out there.
Yeah. There's
a lot more competition now. So it takes a little bit more to make sure when you type it in, you find us.
All righty. Thank you so much for joining us, Nate. I love it. I love your business. Have an amazing week.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
All right. So I'll tell you what I would do if I had an interior design firm and someone came to me and said, hey, Susan McNuggets, please design this Airstream that I just bought, this 1960s Airstream. I wouldn't fake that one. I wouldn't fake that one until I made it. I wouldn't live as if on that. I think that's a different skill set, a different educational, a lot of hurdles to jump there with safety. I would definitely call up someone like Nate Stover and say, hey, Nate, this client wants their Airstream remodeled. So help. But if you are interested in getting into this industry, I do hope that some of the info and the advice that Nate gave you open up your eyes to see, just what is involved there. And I'm really surprised that there's not a lot of governing body after the fact, right? And I'm sure you've seen them as well. Some of those YouTube channels that are putting in some stuff that I'm like, is that safe? That seems kind of heavy. Full tile and full marble and quartz and things like it. Maybe that's okay. I don't know. But I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot at stake there with weight balances and my heavy rear end, So things to look out for, guys. Remember, if you need help with your social media marketing, to check out wingnutsocial.com if you want to get clients from your Instagram, your Facebook, your TikTok, your Pinterest, your LinkedIn. That is what we do, and we do it the best. We also offer SEO, and we do a much better job than whoever it was Nate hired. But there's a wait list for that. There's a 6-month wait list for that. So head on over to wingnutsocial.com to find out more information. Remember our course, Instagram for Interior Designers, on demand, do it your own pace. It could take you a year. It could take you 2 weeks. Just it depends on you, really. And you get lifetime access to that and the Facebook support group. If you have any questions concerning your marketing for Instagram, we're there to answer your questions. And that is it for this week. Remember, until next time, to get out there, get uncomfortable, and be great. So, as interior designers, who my audience is mostly comprised of, we're used to having standards. Oops. I'll start that again. That's okay. No worries.
There you go. I forgot to unplug that office.
Yeah, no worries.